Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a phenomenal guest. She is literally one of my favorite women in the world. We've known each other our whole lives, and there are few people on the planet that I admire more than Sharon Brown Carter. Close your eyes, imagine Superwoman. You're about to meet her. Sharon is a devoted wife, mother, nurse, realtor, entrepreneur. She's just a superstar soccer mom, and she's also a good person. She's a preacher's kid. She comes from a great family. Our families go back generations, and I can't say enough good things about Sharon, her family, her husband, who was my high school classmate. They're just awesome people. So with no further ado, welcome to the show, Sharon Brown Carter. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So thanks for having me here today. Of course, I was born and raised here in Ponchatoula, graduated from Ponchatoula High, of course, in '96, and left off to go to college, came back and got married, started our family here, and we've been here.
Married a good class of '95 man, right?
Of course, couldn't be more lucky.
Go Demetrius, lucky husband. Man.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always good to have a good spouse behind you. So
yeah,
I lucked up with that one. Of course, I was born and raised here. My dad, of course, is Reverend Calvin Brown, and my mom, Carolyn.
Yeah. Wonderful people.
All of my family. My grandmother, Mel, worked with your family forever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Few people have I ever thought higher of than your grandmother Nell. She, helped raise my daddy, and she's absolutely one of the finest women Ponchatoula ever produced. She's, boy, you must be so proud to be her granddaughter. She was wonderful. Yeah.
And so we just grew up here, stayed around, now raising our family here, and
sure,
a grandson.
And you have a daughter of your own, a son, and recently a grandbaby, right? Tell us about them.
Yes. So we have two daughters.
Two daughters. I'm sorry, I'm losing count.
Yeah, two daughters. So our oldest, Christina, she's actually adopted, but we've had her since she was a newborn. So that's something else that's kind of dear to me. Is
sure.
Taking care of children and promoting adoption if possible. And we have our daughter Alicia, who made us grandparents last year. So we have a 9-month-old grandson who we can't get enough of.
He's a cutie pie. I've been loving all the Facebook pics. Yeah, it's congrats on that. It's so neat.
Thank you. And we have our
your son Demetrius is in high school now. Is that right?
Yes, he attends St. Thomas. He's a junior this year.
Okay, neat. And he's doing well. I know that because I've seen his report card on Facebook. He's a strong student as well as an athlete, a great soccer player. You must be proud of him too.
We are. Not only is he going to St. Thomas, but he's doing dual enrollment with Southeastern here. He's keeping his grades. He's got honor roll. Like you said, he's involved in soccer. The boys STA made the playoffs, so if anybody's interested, you can come out on Saturday and watch boys in their first round of playoff game. So we're excited and proud about that, and showing everybody's doing good.
That's great. So great to hear. And I'm so glad you kind of let off here talking about adoption and the importance of that. And I know it's so important to you. I want you may know this. It's also really important to my family. My dad, retired Sheriff Eddie Layrisson, was adopted. And so, it's a big part of our family. He was adopted. His brother Donnie was adopted. My godfather, who was his cousin and close friend, Jack Vaughn, was adopted. It's such an important thing. But I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, and people don't know enough about it. And I was just glad that you were open and shared that with us, because it's such a big deal, and it's so important that people do that and support that. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, it is. Anytime you can open up your heart and your home to a child in need, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, we have our own biological children, but I wouldn't trade having her for nothing in the world. So
yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. Well, you mentioned this wonderful family. And like I said, we go back generations, and gosh, man, just the mention of your grandmother, Nell, makes me think, reminds me that the world's greatest fried chicken didn't come from Popeyes. It came from your family. But that was just such a small part of who she was. And, she's such a wonderful lady. So tell us what it's like growing up here in Ponchatoula with a remarkable family like that. You know, a wonderful mother who learned from her mom to cook her tail off and raise babies and nurture people and support people. A preacher daddy who's just this big, bubbly, fun guy. You know, what was childhood like for you here in Ponchatoula?
I mean, it was fun. My grandmother had 9 children, so of course I had a bunch of cousins, and we all kind of lived in close to each other. So we got out and got along, played all the time. It wasn't like today. We were outside playing, you know. So you met up out in the yard, played some baseball. So of course, enjoyed growing up, and everybody kind of knew everybody and kind of looked out for each other. And as I got older and my dad did become a pastor, of course, that became a big part of our lives, because we were always helping people and, you know, learning how to give back and learning how to do and be there for other people. It wasn't, you know, about you all the time. So it was injustice, but it was also rewarding to do.
I bet. And the church is out in Maurepas, is that right? Or was when you were younger? Is it still there?
Yes, and it still is. So the church is located out in Maurepas, right across the street from the school. Of course, with the virus, with Corona and everything going on, we haven't been meeting as much in person. But
of course.
Hopefully we'll get back to that soon.
Yeah. Well, that's another connection we share, because my daddy taught at Maurepas High School for a little while. He was the girls basketball coach out there before he was sheriff long ago. And my wife, who works in the Livingston Parish school system, also worked at that school for a few years. She's no longer assigned to that school, but special place in my heart. You know, Maurepas is not that far from Ponchatoula, but because it's not on the interstate, I feel like it doesn't get the same level of traction that some of the other nearby cities do. So you're talking about growing up in Ponchatoula, all these cousins playing outside, you know, tell us about what your high school experience was like. You know, you mentioned you're class of 96, so you're a year after me. You know, you married Demetrius, who's class of 95. You know, what were you into at that time in your life?
So during my high school years, of course, it was academics first. So it was always on a roll, but I was involved in band. Not many people know that. I had 4 years of band. I did marching band, Mardi Gras parade, football games.
Really?
You name it.
What did you play? What was your instrument?
So I played the clarinet. It was actually passed down to me from my cousin Charlotte. She was in band through junior high and high school. And so I did the same. I was in band starting at Martha Vineyard all the way up to high school. She gave me her clarinet.
Cool.
And I was in band.
Yeah.
So I also played softball at the high school, and you know, and it was
what
important.
position did you play?
Believe it or not, I played catcher.
Neil, I was a catcher too as a kid. Here in my office, we have baseball gear. I've got, you know, Derek Jeter stuff. I'm a big Yankees fan, so it's neat to meet another catcher. And since you mentioned the band, I'll share a little scoop with you here. I haven't shared this with anyone. But just a few days ago, I was talking to the PHS band director, Thomas Bro, and I invited him on the show. And although we haven't settled on a date yet, he did say he'd like to come on to talk about the band and what they're up to. And of course, we're all hoping the COVID cloud clears soon. You mentioned that earlier, and the impact it's had on your church. It keeps the band from playing like they'd like to. But we will have some band representation here on the show. So that's neat. So it sounds like early on, you kind of had what I would call a well-rounded life, right? You've got a strong grounding in the spiritual world from a family that's passing down the importance of Christianity. The classroom you mentioned in high school is kind of first and foremost for your PHS experience, but you're not short on extracurriculars here, right? You're playing sports, you're in the band. Sounds like you had a really active childhood here in Ponchatoula. Is that right?
Yes, I did. It was really active and well-rounded. Sports were always part of my life because, of course, my brother Stanley played football. He ran
football
track,
star, yeah. Stanley was a heck of a player.
So
Yeah.
And then my husband did also. Demetrius was involved with track and football.
And football, right. 2 running backs in the family, right? But boy, that's no wonder your son's so great at soccer. He comes from good stock. He's got the genetics in every direction there, right? Wasn't Stanley a running back too? I know Demetrius was a running back and a safety. As I recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, and D will definitely correct me but I think he had at one point the PHS squat record meaning that he could squat, the most weight in the school when we were there, which is impressive for anybody, but for somebody who's not a left tackle or a defensive end size wise, it was impressive. But he's a well-rounded guy. He's not just a muscular, fast guy. He's a smart fella. He was in advanced classes with me. It sounds like you guys had a lot in common. So you mentioned after high school, you go to college. Eventually, we're going to get into your career here in a bit, or your careers, I should say, because there's several. So before we leave the PHS time, one thing I like to ask folks on this show, because I found like, we're a one school town. So most of us flow through PHS. I mean, you've given your son the opportunity to go to the Falcons, and I saw my nephews go there. St. Thomas is another great school. But everybody seems to like kind of talking about or hearing about the good old days of PHS and things like favorite teachers, kind of, what you're into. Any people, whether the other classmates, students, friends, or teachers, administrators, counselors, anybody from that era that you want to mention that had an impact on you or just that you remember fondly?
I think some of my favorite teachers there were Miss Jackson. She was there, and she kind of taught like a family type class. She taught you how to something children need now, balance checkbooks and do resumes and fill out applications. And of course, one of my all-time favorites was Miss Clark.
Oh yeah, we had our son Demetrius on the show a few weeks ago. Wow, she was an icon. Please tell us about her.
Yes. So Miss Clark was
one of my
Peronis.
Favorites. I might have misspoke. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Peronis Clark was our guest a few weeks ago. But tell us about Miss Clark.
So she was one of my favorites in and out of the classroom. And she would get on you in and out of the classroom. It didn't matter. So she made sure that, whatever you started, you stuck with it. And she was kind of one of those that showed me you could have several different jobs, because she did several different things outside of just teaching. So she was just one of the best,
Yeah, she was a real community leader. Yeah, you're right. I remember she was always dressed to the T. She always had a nice car. It was like a BMW or a Mercedes or something. And you're right. It's like, wow, how's Miss Clark driving that? It's like she worked for it. She worked hard as a teacher, and then she went and did more. She earned her way. And those are great role models. I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, what comes next? What's the next step after the PHS days? Tell us about, the college years and what followed.
So when I first left PHS, I went to Southwest College. I've gone there for their nursing program, which is actually where I met and started dating Demetrius. We actually dated.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because he got a football scholarship to play there, right?
Yes.
So was he still playing football when you got there?
Yes, he was. He was still playing football when I got there. So that's kind of how we met and started dating. Me and, of course, my best friend, Tanya, it was Smith at the time. We went to Southwest together. We were roommates. Me, her, and Antoinette were suite mates, and we did the whole college thing together. And right around that time is when I started keeping our adopted daughter at the time. So it was kind of when I started getting custody of her. So I came back closer to Louisiana and started going Southeastern. And then eventually went to Baton Rouge to Delta to get my my nursing. And from there, started a nursing career. Demetrius was a big support in that, because he likes to say he raised the children during that time. Which between me, him, his mom, and my mom, they probably did a lot of the raising, because
it takes a village.
Doesn't give you a lot of time.
Right. Of course.
So I did have a really strong and supportive village, and I'm thankful for that every day. And once I did finish nursing and got my license and everything, I kind of put it not on the back burner, but I put more time into raising the children. So I was able to be more of a stay-at-home mom, and so I was allowed to, the privileges of doing basketball and soccer and baseball and all of that with the children, and carpooling, which wasn't my favorite then, but now that I don't get to do it anymore, I do kind of miss it. Because it was kind of that bonding time in the afternoon with the kids in the car, learning about their days. So
I'm glad
and
you
did
mentioned
that
that because
for,
that part of my life just started. And I got to tell you, when my two boys are back there fighting in the back seat, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to miss that one day. So I need to
yes, you're
appreciate
gonna
it
miss
while it's
it. You're
there.
gonna miss it. This year was my first year. I don't have carpool, no soccer
Uh-huh.
practice, no workouts, and so and I still get up like I have carpool to go to, and he of course comes and tells me, he's leaving and he loves me every morning, but I don't get to take
Right.
him to school and learn about his day and get that last minute what you're missing things in the morning. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
enjoy it
bet you
while
do
you
miss that.
can.
Well, thank you for that advice. I'm sure there's a withdrawal phase there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about, I guess, the early mom days, and it sounds like you were blessed to be able to stay home and invest, all of your time into your children. What a blessing that is. So few people have that luxury. We did when I was a young kid, and I know what an impact it made on me and my brothers. So I'm sure it did for your daughters and son. I guess that now maybe explains a little bit why, as long as I've known Demetrius Carter, he always had like 3 jobs, right? You guys weren't wanting for anything because he was out there working, and now kind of you guys are both on that route, right? You both have multiple jobs going. You're the modern day Miss Clark, and he's still doing his thing. So tell us a little bit about, and we're going to get in and dig deep to your current career as a realtor and all the great things you're doing at Branch Real Estate to help people get in homes and buy properties that they need. Your nursing career, which is your profession and your longtime passion, but I also want to hear about your entrepreneurial career, because you mentioned Tanya earlier, and I remember the days when I lived upstairs in the knee-high plant, and y'all had a store downstairs, and of course that was your second or third job. I mean, you've done a lot of things, so we can start anywhere you want, but just tell us about your work life, because I wasn't kidding, when I said you were kind of a superwoman earlier. You got a lot of balls juggling up there in the air, and you seem to be, really good at it and successful. So tell us a little bit about your career once you kind of re-enter the workforce. Maybe just chronologically, where did it start when you kind of went from being a full-time mom to adding some work to that?
Okay. So I kind of started first with home health and hospice. That's kind of my first love. I preferred that over being in the facilities, just getting to know families and bonding with them. That was just always my thing with nursing, and which also still afforded me that time with my family. And like you say, Tanya and I got together with our husbands, and we decided we were going to open a store. Demetrius was already kind of one of his things on the side. He was, selling clothes and stuff. So we're like, let's just get a storefront. And of course, we're lucky enough to reach out to your parents again. And
Right.
Your mom had the space available, and they were more than willing to lease it to us. And so that was the beginning of our business, our store. And for the longest time, we had a Dickies contract. We did the New Era caps, and we're a big supplier of school uniforms here in the area for a lot of the local children and stuff parents would come and order clothes, but we also did prom dresses, form wear, shoes, just really a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it was a great clothing store. You guys had a ton of different great stuff in there.
So yeah, we really enjoyed doing that, and I still continue to do the health and hospice. So when we moved away from the store, I just went into that full time, home health and hospice, and did it for several more years, and then kind of got into the private side of just private duty care for home health and hospice. And then that's when I decided, of course, a lot of people don't know this, but Demetrius said I changed jobs about every 3 or 4 years. So during nursing, I decided I wanted to be a nail tech. So I actually have, I'm a licensed nail tech. I have a license.
That surprised to me. I didn't know that wrinkle.
Yeah. So got away from nursing, did that about 2 or 3 years, and then kind of went back to nursing. So that was another one of my business type things, and dove back into nursing, did that for several years, and then decided I wanted real estate license.
Right.
And so, and of course, no matter what it is, I can say I'm selling water on the side of the road. Demetrius just support me. So, took off.
You guys really are. You're each other's biggest fans. You know, you see it in real life when we see you in person, but also on Facebook. I mean, y'all seem to have such a supportive relationship. Tell us about that. Is that just about who you are as people, about how you were raised? Is it about things you've learned as you've been married? I mean, how does a couple get to that point where you have the type of unconditional support that I see you give Demetrius and him give you year after year? And don't hate me for saying this now, but at this point it's decade after decade. I mean, you guys have been thriving for a long time in that way, but it seems like a rare exception. So, you know, is there a secret to that, or, you know, what can you share to help people kind of get there? What's the secret to it?
This year makes 23 years that we've been married. So,
wow.
25 years we've been together. So, if you ask me, I think, you know, you just do what your wife tells you. It makes it a much makes it a lot easier. But
well, no, you and Brandy on the same page.
We're just trying to make it easy for y'all, you know. But no, it really does help. We were both, I would say, kind of raised the same. You were raised to help and to give back and to do what you can for other people. So I think that just kind of rolls over into that marriage, and it just makes it so much easier because you're there to work together as a team, and it's not what's yours and what's mine. You know, it's whatever we need to do to make it work. You know, whether it's the children or a business. You know, if one person's doing something, then the other one is behind them 100%. We're all in, and that is just what it is. We either
it's beautiful.
You know,
it's a beautiful thing.
Make it thrive together, and if it doesn't, we're there to pick up the pieces and move on to the next thing that we're going to accomplish.
Right. So we're here, folks, in case you're just tuning in now. We're still with Sharon Brown Carter. We're talking about her relationship with her husband, Demetrius, and how supportive they are of each other's goals and professional aspirations. And we're talking specifically about her move into real estate. So you're mentioning how you get the idea to go into real estate. Demetrius supports you 100%. Let me ask this before we dig into that career. You know, what spurned that? Like what gave you the idea of real estate as the next move? Was there an event? Was there a person? I mean, what was the inspiration of becoming a realtor? Because you're so great at it. You're thriving. You're doing well. And I'm just curious kind of as to what got that started.
Well, before I became a realtor, some years back, actually, we had the store. My dad actually had a mortgage company.
Okay.
So on the corner from the store. So that was somehow I got into it. And then Demetrius and I have always been interested in, you know, purchasing properties and just we have several lots throughout the city and even outside the city limits. So we've always have been big on ownership. You know, we purchased our first house. We were, I think, 25, you know. So
yeah, I think y'all owned like a snowball stand when we were real young. I mean, y'all always had something. You were constantly acquiring properties. So I guess that does make sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, and since we were interested, what other way to, you know, you always want to learn as much as you can about it, but if you also take your interest and take those and to help others and then also make it into a career, it was like a win-win. It wasn't, you know.
Right. And it sounds, as I recall, and correct me because I wasn't there for all of it, so I only remember parts of it, but it seems like you connected with Charlene Branch or Daniels and Wesley Daniels at Branch Real Estate pretty early on. I mean, was that the first place you went to work when you got your real estate license, or tell us about that, or did you start somewhere else? How did you find Branch and get going? Because that seems like such a good fit now. Y'all all get along so well. You're all great at what you do. Tell us about how that came about.
And actually, I found it through you. I don't know if you remember, but
I do remember that part. I just didn't remember whether it was the first place or whether you were working somewhere else and we're looking for greener pastures. I couldn't remember the kind of where you were coming from, but I do remember making the connection because, of course, you know, Wesley Daniels was like a brother growing up, you know. And it was fun to connect two families I love, right? That had kind of been connected with mine for 100 years or more or whatever, you know. So that was neat. So you've been with Branch kind of the whole time in your real estate career, right? So tell us about that. What's it like to work with that team? That's an old family-owned business.
It is. And so they were actually my first stop when I started looking into get my realtor's license. Of course, I looked around and kind of interviewed a few companies just to see what they had to offer and kind of the dynamics of the company, and reached out to you, and you told me, you know, well, hey, go talk to Wes. I'm not sure if his family, and I'm not sure if they are open to others, but and so I did. I reached out to him, spoke with Miss Arlene, love her to death, and she told me, she said, well, really, it's his family, and never really hired anybody else, but hey, if you want to come along, I don't have a concrete program of how to teach you or whatever, but I'm willing to share with you whatever I can, and I can say that they have been awesome. It doesn't matter what time I call or what I need, you know, they're always there to see how they can help, and they don't mind helping. And I kind of went there because of their family values, because it was family owned, and they're always trying to give back to the community. I know one Christmas the office adopted a family, and we brought presents and food, and so they're always giving back. They donated for the boys' soccer team, just like you have. Gave meals for the soccer boys, and
well, as I recall, Wesley used to coach the STA basketball team back in the day. You know, after he played there, so I know Wesley Daniels loves him some St. Thomas. So that was a good fit for you.
He's part of the reason my son is there. Because my son came from the lab school, and I was like, well, Wesley, between Ponchatoula High and St. Thomas, and he was like, well, you know, it's a good day to be a Falcon. And so 3 years later, my son is still there, and he loved it, and we do too. I couldn't think of a better place for him, but that was kind of why I went with that real estate company. And like I said, I love it there. It's just family. There's no competition. It's everybody supports everybody, and everyone gets along great.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's a family affair. You know, it's Wesley, his mom, his uncle. Of course, they're his grandmother, Miss Willie, is a legendary realtor of Ponchatoula, one of the first great women business owners of the town, and just a really well-run operation. How do I know that? You know, that's why we have this building here on the corner of Hickory and 5th Street. You know, Wesley made it happen, helped my wife and I buy the lot where we're going to build our house. You know, y'all just do a great job there, and can't thank you enough for sharing that, because it's good to see good local people kind of get a shout out. And I'll say it's fun to play matchmaker. You know, it's a little nervous at first, because you know, we've got our friends over here that we like and our friends over there, and you know, they don't always mix well. But sometimes you take some sweet tea and lemonade, and bam, you got the Arnold Palmer, the great summer drink that everybody loves. And y'all have made a good team, so that's fun to see. Tell us about what you like about being a realtor, because I've seen you in action in a few ways. For example, I brought folks to you that were struggling to qualify to buy their first home. Maybe their credit was banged up a little bit, and you took a ton of time knowing that person couldn't buy a house today and wouldn't make you a commission anytime soon, but to set them on a path to say, well, this person can help you repair your credit. This person can educate you on saving. You know, like, to me, you just go above and beyond what I would expect, you know, the average realtor to do. It would seem like that's got to come in part from a place of love of what you do. You know, tell us about that. You know, what parts of the job, you know, really inspire you and make you kind of happy to get to work in the morning?
I really do just love what I do, and now that have been in real estate, I kind of see that there's a need. There is a race of people and a generation of people that just don't know anything about buying a house. You know, their parents may have not have owned a house, or grandparents that own a house, and so they know nothing about the first step of even trying to become a homeowner. And like you said, they may come and credit may not be the best, or job history isn't the best, and they need a little work. And I'm proud to say I have a great person that I work with. Her name is Taffy Hawk. She's at First Access Mortgage out of Hammond. And I know I've sent her some people that I probably would send somewhere else, and they'd like, you know, these people may have a 500 credit score. You know, they can't buy a house, and they'll push them to the side, and you never hear from them again. But she is the total opposite. I can send her people, and she works with me to help educate them and get them on that right path. I know we have some people we work with 2 or 3 years before they're ready, but once they're ready, just knowing that they took their time to get where they needed to be and they worked hard in order to get there, it makes selling them a home, all the more better experience. And it isn't always the price of the house. I mean, I don't care if you're buying $80,000 house or $800,000 house. We treat you the same. Everybody's treated with care and respect. And it's just, educating people and letting them know, just take the chance. If you don't start somewhere, you'll never buy a house. You'll never know if you qualify. You'll still be stuck in that same situation.
Right.
So I love being able to educate people, and, like you said, it may take them a while. They may have some issues, but eventually getting them to the place where they can be a homeowner is just rewarding in itself.
Well, I love, and this is no surprise considering where you come from and the people that raised you. But, I'm sensing such a giver's instinct in the way you're describing your career. You're talking about helping people and what you can do to serve them and make their lives better by helping them to get a home, but to achieve the American dream. Whereas, probably some realtors are just all about that commission. Somebody comes in and they're doing, it's like they have a number on their forehead, this percent of that house price. And, it's really neat. And I thank you for that. And people are taking notice here. I'll share. We've got a young lady here, Jan Bourgeois. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong either way, but she comments here. This is so cool. I think people really dig what you're doing, Sharon. So thank you for doing that for our community. I really appreciate it. And again, I'm a cheerleader for Branch Real Estate because long before you took this career leap, I was, a client over there, a customer over there from the first house I ever bought, which I still live in today, which Charlene, did the deal on for me and walked me through when I knew absolutely nothing, to the other deals I talked about that Wesley did. I look forward to doing one with you soon. Y'all just do great work. And I love to hear how you talk about it being a team. We have one of your other colleagues on the show a month or two ago, Logan Davis. And, I think I heard similar stuff from him. It's not real competitive. It's not sharp elbows of you kind of pushing Logan out of the way to get to the deal or vice versa. Y'all just are a well-rounded team. Everybody seems to have a good niche and a sense of cooperation. And isn't that kind of Ponchatoula in a nutshell? I mean, that's kind of what makes this town special. We have these families that have kind of been around forever. You maybe didn't know Wesley Daniels 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? But your grandmother and my grandmother knew each other for 100 years before that. So, our relationship was strong. And on the flip side, same thing with Wesley. I think his great-great-grandfather or whatever and mine moved down from Michigan together, in the 1800s, for crying out loud. So you have these kind of good, moral, just strong families in town. And it makes for some really neat chemistry when they get together in business or whatever. So that's cool. Well, tell us about, anything else on your careers, anything else that you want to share. I know you've got to get back to work here soon, so we won't keep you much longer. And I really have loved chatting with you, but I'd love to hear about anything else you want to talk about. I mean, I know you do a ton of great in the community. Is there anything you want to chat about that's just on your heart that you'd like to share?
No, I will say that right now, it's a great time for anyone. Interest rates are low. If anyone is looking to become homeowners, now is an absolutely great time to reach out and get started. And, don't take anyone else's word for it. Don't let them tell you, no, you can't.
Right.
You have to surround yourself with good people and people that are going to support you and just make you think that, the impossible is possible. And that's just kind of the way I live my life, and just kind of try to teach our children that too, never say no, just give it a try and get the support and stuff you need, and, go for it.
Yeah,
and
great
hopefully
advice.
We look to do more for our, community and stuff in the future. Hopefully as COVID kind of leaves us, and hoping to develop some of the property we have here in Ponchatoula, maybe with some low-income housing or something to help our community. And I would still love in the future to have some type of youth center for our, our community, to help with tutoring and ACT scores and, just different things. So I look forward to continue to be able to give back to our community and continue to do new projects.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I want to share something with folks because I know you and how modest you are, and you'd be the last person to mention this. But Ponchatoula has a great after-school program now over at the community center That was your idea. You were the person who came up with the concept for after school for Ponchatoula. You were the person that went and sought out people that had implemented it elsewhere, like Lamar Marshall and Hammond, did the research, brought the idea to the mayor and city hall. Now, to their credit, they took it and ran with it. But, I think folks need to know that was you, So anybody out there, if you got a great idea for this community, you don't have to be the mayor or the chief of police or the state representative or, anybody with an official title. You can be a super mom like Sharon and just come up with a great idea. Now, it's going to take some brains, some hard work, some hustle. You're going to have to give of your time, your attention, but you can make it happen. And if you're humble like her, you can stay behind the scenes the whole time and nobody will ever know until one of your buddies goes and blasts it on a Facebook Live show without asking you in advance. But just know you can do that. Sharon, one thing I neglected to ask, and how can people get in touch with you? If people are watching this and thinking about buying a home, wanting to buy a home, a piece of property, what should they do? Call you, text you, email you? Tell us how we can get in touch.
So you can reach out to me, of course, through Facebook. It's under Sharon Brown Carter. You can message me, feel free. They can reach me by my cell phone, which is 985-634-0690. You can always call our office at Branch Real Estate. You can ask for me or any other the agents there. We would love to help you. And my email address is sharoncarter@branch.la.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Another great comment here. Kelly Brandon says that's awesome. So you got some fans out there, Sharon, and thank y'all all for tuning in. Kelly, so good to see you. We're talking PHS 95 earlier, so it's good to see another one of our classmates coming here on the show. So to our viewers, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing this time to get to know Sharon. Now, I'm sure you see why she's one of my favorite women in the world. She's as good as gold, inside and out. She's got a pure heart, strong work ethic, and she's just fun to be around, fun to talk to. So for the super women out there, to the working moms, to all the hardworking folks in town, thank you for all you do. I know Sharon is an exemplar of our community. She's one of our very best, and she deserves every compliment I've bestowed upon her today. But she's not alone. There are many more women like Sharon here in this community of Ponchatoula. So just know we love you. We're thinking about you. And Sharon, I know you got to get to work. So thank you for coming on the show. It's been so good to see you. To our viewers, we'll be back here next Thursday. So thank you for tuning in to Ponchatoula Live.